from Country News. We want to thank you for subscribing. We value it very much.
In Country News, Patsy Cline. Did you know that Patsy Cline was born on September 8, 1932 in Winchester, Virginia, United States? Daughter of Hilda Virginia and Samuel Lawrence Hensley. Mrs. Hensley was only 16 years old at the time of Cline's birth. Sam Hensley had been married before. Cline had two half-siblings, aged 12 and 15, who lived with a foster family because of their mother's death years before. After Cline, Hilda Hensley gave birth to Samuel Jr., called John, and Sylvia May. Besides being called Virginia in her childhood, Cline was referred to as Ginny. She temporarily lived with her mother's family in Gore, Virginia, before relocating many times throughout the state. In her childhood, the family relocated where Samuel Hensley, a blacksmith, could find employment, including Elkton, Staunton, and Norfolk. When the family had little money, she would find work. This included an Elkton poultry factory, where her job was to pluck and cut chickens. The family moved often before finally settling in Winchester, Virginia, on South Kent Street. Cline would later report that her father sexually abused her. When confiding about the abuse to friend Loretta Lynn, Cline told her, "Take this to your grave." Hilda Hensley would later report details of the abuse to producers of Cline's 1985 biopic Sweet Dreams. At age 13, Cline was hospitalized with a throat infection and rheumatic fever. Speaking of the incident in 1957, she said, "I developed a terrible throat infection and my heart even stopped beating. The doctor put me in an oxygen tent. You might say it was my return to the living after several days that launched me as a singer. The fever affected my throat, and when I recovered I had this booming voice like Kate Smith's." It was during this time she developed an interest in singing. She started performing with her mother in the local Baptist choir. Mother and daughter also performed duets at church social events. She also taught herself how to play the piano. With the new performing opportunities, Cline's interest in singing only grew further, and at the age of 14, she told her mother that she was going to audition for the local radio station. Her first radio performances began at WNC in the Winchester area. According to Wink's radio disc jockey Jolton, Jim McCoy, Cline appeared in the station's waiting room one day and asked to audition. McCoy was impressed by her audition performance, reportedly saying, "Well, if you've got nerve enough to stand before that mic and sing over the air live, I've got nerve enough to let you." While performing on the radio, Cline also started appearing in talent contests and created a nightclub cabaret act similar to performer Helen Morgan's. Cline's parents had marital conflicts during her childhood, and by 1947 her father had deserted the family. Author Ellis Nas Sauer of the biography Honky Tonk Angel, an intimate story of Patsy Cline, reported Cline had a beautiful relationship with her mother. In his interviews with Hilda Hensley, he quoted Cline's mother as saying they were more like sisters than parent and child. Upon entering the 9th grade, Cline enrolled at John Hanley High School in Winchester, Virginia. However, the family had trouble sustaining an income after her father's desertion. Therefore, Cline dropped out of high school to help support the family. She began working at Gaunt's Drug Store in the Winchester area as a clerk and soda jerk. At age 15, Cline wrote a letter to the Grand Ole Opry asking for an audition. She told local photographer Ralph Grubbs about the letter. "A friend thinks I'm crazy to send it. What do you think?" Grubbs encouraged Cline to send it. Several weeks later, she received a return letter from the Opry asking for pictures and recordings. At the same time, gospel performer Wally Fowler headlined a concert in her hometown. Cline convinced concert employees to let her backstage, where she asked Fowler for an audition. Following a successful audition, Cline's family received a call asking for her to audition for the Opry. She traveled with her mother, 2 siblings, and a family friend on an 8-hour journey to Nashville, Tennessee. With limited finances, they drove overnight and slept in a Nashville park the following morning. Cline auditioned for Opry performer Moon Mullican the same day. The audition was well received and Cline expected to hear from the Opry the same day. However, she never received news and the family returned to Virginia. In 1954, Bill Peer created and distributed a series of demonstration tapes with Cline's voice on it. A tape was brought to the attention of Bill McCall, president of 4 Star Records. On September 30th, 1954, she signed a 2-year recording contract with the label alongside Peer and her husband Gerald Cline. The original contract allowed 4 Star to receive most of the money for the songs she recorded. Therefore, Cline received little of the royalties from the label, totaling out to 2.34% on her recording contract. Her first recording session took place in Nashville, Tennessee on January 5, 1955. Songs for the session were handpicked by McCall and Paul Cohen. 4 Star leased the recordings to the larger Decca Records. For those reasons, Owen Bradley was chosen as the session's producer, a professional relationship that would continue into the 1960s. Her first single release was 1955's A Church, A Courtroom, Then Goodbye. Although Cline promoted it with an appearance on the Grand Ole Opry, the song was not successful. Cline's professional decisions yielded more positive results by the early 1960s. Upon moving to Nashville, she signed a management deal with Randy Hughes. She originally wished to work with Hubert Long, however, he was busy managing other artists. Instead, she turned her attention to Hughes. With the help of Hughes, she began working steadier jobs. He organized $50 bookings and got her multiple performances on the Grand Ole Opry. In January 1960, Cline officially became a member of the Opry. When she asked General Manager Ott Devine about a membership, he replied, "Patsy, if that's all you want, you're on the Opry." Also in January 1960, Cline made her final recording sessions set forth in her contract with 4 Star Records. Later that year, her final singles with the label were released, Lovesick Blues and Crazy Dreams. Leaving 4 Star, Cline officially signed with Decca Records in late 1960, working exclusively under Bradley's direction. Insisting on receiving in advance, she received $1,000 from Bradley once she began at the label. Cline returned to her career 6 weeks after her 1961 car accident. Her first public appearance was on the Grand Ole Opry, where she assured fans she would continue performing. She said to the audience that night, "You're wonderful. I'll tell you one thing, the greatest gift, I think, that you folks could have given me was the encouragement that you gave me. Right at the very time I needed you the most, you came through with the flyingest colors. And I just want to say you'll just never know how happy you made this old country gal." Cline's own career was all too brief. She died on March 5, 1963, in a plane crash in Camden, Tennessee. After her death, her version of Sweet Dreams was released and became a hit. Considered one of country music's greatest vocalists, Cline was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1973. Her life became the subject of the 1985 film Sweet Dreams, starring Jessica Lange. Her music remains popular today with fans around the world, with many making the pilgrimage to her hometown of Winchester, Virginia, to visit the Patsy Cline historic home. Thanks so much, Cline, for your contribution to country music.